Watch this.
To the dumpster fire that was the year 2020, this year, 2021, was supposed to be all sunshine and lollipops. Well, it wasn't. No time like the final month, though, to begin looking back on the year that was 2021. For instance, the city of Boise had its own roller coaster ride to deal with. While the economy thrived during these difficult times, the housing market grew to unbelievable heights, outpricing a lot of people. Well, how did it look from a city leader's perspective? Joe Paris spoke with Boise Mayor Lauren McLean about some of the hot topics in Boise from this year.
You and I spoke about a year ago about your first full year as mayor. And I mean, 2020, that's a heck of a year. To run it back in 2021, to me as an observer, it looked like it was just as challenging. Do you think 2021 is as challenging for you as 2020?
It was. It was as challenging for our community as 2020 was, to be honest. And, we are in this together. And we are getting through it together, and we will be stronger as a community because of the challenges we faced, because time and time again, Boiseans have demonstrated that they want to partner with me to protect what we love about this place, and that's the people and this great community that we live in.
Something that you've been passionate about is the environment and taking care of our climate. Of course, President Biden was here a few months ago, and you got to speak with him as he was in town to evaluate wildfires in the West. To you as a mayor, why do you think the climate is such a big topic of conversation? There's a lot of mayors that say it's too big for our city to take on. We're going to take on what we can control.
Boiseans have been clear they want us to lead on climate. And the buck stops here, really. We can't keep passing the buck to somebody else. So this is about people. It's about our health, and it's about jobs of the future, making sure that our community remains vibrant, that our kids and grandkids have access to clean water, healthy air, and importantly, jobs that will be necessary to build the lives here that we all want them to be able to build. And so yes, climate innovation is really important to me, because in our transition to clean energy, we'll need to innovate, and that innovation will create opportunity for our residents.
Let's talk about the economy in Boise. I hear two very loud conversations over the last year. You have the group of people that say, I lost my business. COVID restrictions and COVID as a whole forced us to go out of business. I'm now out of a job. At the same time, as you highlighted, the city of Boise is growing explosively. The economy it appears to be awesome here in downtown here at the end of the year. For you, how do you reconcile the difference between the people that had arguably the toughest year of their life, losing their business, and then newcomers who are now thriving in our community?
That's if you would, the paradox of COVID, is that we as a community have struggled. We're coming through it with a strong economy and a much more tightly knit community, and because we did this together. But the struggles that residents had are real. And while our economy is growing, we have to recognize that people are struggling. And so because of that, we've done everything we can to take advantage of the COVID dollars. ARP dollars will direct back into the community to support those residents, businesses, artists in their needs, because the needs are real.
A major conversation in our community, people facing homelessness and battling through it. With Interfaith Sanctuary moving, there's been a massive conversation. Where do you put it? Of course, there's a lot of public hearings and a lot of conversations about moving it to State Street. For you, how do you navigate this conversation? Because no matter where you want to move interfaith, there's going to be a lot of community conversation. It seems like a can't-win situation.
We, as a community, have shown time and again that we want to support those folks in our community. And so as a city, we prioritize a housing first philosophy. We've made investments in permanent supportive housing. I announced in my State of the City the next development that we'll do in conjunction with New Path. But we have to recognize too, there's a deep need for emergency overnight shelter. And it's important as a community to have a respectful conversation to recognize the importance of having a roof over the heads of Boiseans every night, and do all that we can to make sure that that happens. At the same time, recognizing the best way to address homelessness is to prevent it. And so in partnership with Jesse Tree and Catch and other organizations, we've worked and helped nearly 2,000 residents with rental assistance since the spring. And we're now in a second round of funding. We're using Ada County funding, and we've asked the federal government for state funding that wasn't spent by the state to support Boiseans. And we are working to prevent evictions with Jesse Tree, and at the same time, working through Our Path Home to ensure that there's emergency shelter.
For the second year in a row, there's anti-Semitic graffiti near the Anne Frank Memorial during Hanukkah. For you, I mean, this happens again, and it's happened previously. We saw swastikas on the statue of Anne Frank. As a leader of the city, you know what the city is, but how do you, I guess, address these continued circumstances? Because at this point, it's not just a one-off.
We as a city, as a state, and a country are seeing a rise in extremism. And the graffiti that was put on the tunnel along the Greenbelt is both a literal as well as figurative stain on our community. A reminder again of this rise in extremism and the hate that exists, and we cannot and will not tolerate it. And we need to see business leaders, community leaders, political leaders throughout this region and state stand together with our Jewish neighbors and together with our community and make clear that we won't tolerate it. Not only will we denounce it, but we will ask people to join hands and take steps to curb this rise in extremism, to protect our community, because it's worth fighting for.
All right, Joe, there's no question that it is a stain on our community, especially that it's happened a couple of times. More to that point in a second. But there's a lot of good that came through this year as well, and looking forward to.
Yeah, and something I want to highlight about my conversation with the mayor this afternoon is that, again, there was a lot of good stuff that did happen in the city of Boise, and sometimes, it doesn't make for the best news conversations. But one thing that the mayor's office worked on in the city of Boise this past fall was a call out to the community about community heroes. And Brian, during the State of the City recently, the mayor was awarding a handful of collections to everyday Boiseans that went out there during the pandemic and went out of their way to help people. It's something that I wish we could go through and highlight all of them, but it would take the entire half hour. But it's a link that we'll have in this story at ktvb.com when this goes up later, Brian. But it really was a reminder when I was talking with the mayor about everything we've been through really since 2020, the good and the bad. And when you talk to the mayor about it, one of the final things we spoke about that didn't air is about hope and optimism. And when I spoke with her in late 2020, the conversation was about, the vaccine's coming out, we're going to get out of COVID, we have this hope and optimism. And I asked her, I said, do you feel the same now about a year later? And she said yes. And I thought that was a really interesting answer to me, because it's not as easy now to be optimistic and hopeful as it was a year ago.
True.
As today marks the 1 year anniversary of the first person getting a COVID vaccine in Idaho. I think a lot of us were thinking, okay, a year ago, we'll be out of this. And we're not. We're still dealing with this, and we're still dealing with it on a daily basis. So I thought it was interesting for the mayor's perspective on that, as well as her recognition of community heroes.
Right, but not to the level that we were at that point. There wasn't quite that end in sight. There still is. It just kind of gets pushed a little further back every once in a while, but it's still visible. All right, thank you, Joe. From speaking engagements across the country to being the lone physician appointed to the largest health board in Idaho, Dr. Ryan Cole has certainly gained some notoriety the past few months. But he's also apparently lost a few clients along the way, and some pretty big ones. Today, we learned the pathologist who owns and operates a large testing lab in Garden City will soon no longer be part of the St. Luke's Health Partners Network. The same goes for his lab, Cole Diagnostics. So what does this mean? Well, it means beginning December 22nd, when the contract ends, Dr. Cole and his lab will not be in network for nearly 200,000 Idahoans, those who are covered by certain health insurance plans in Idaho. For example, if your insurance is with Select Health, which is linked to St. Luke's Health Partners, and you needed some lab tests done, well, they wouldn't be sent to Dr. Cole or Cole Diagnostics. Who parted with whom and why? Well, that isn't quite clear. St. Luke's wouldn't say, but they would say they can confirm that Cole Diagnostics and its sole provider, Dr. Cole, is no longer participating in the St. Luke's Health Partners or Bright Path networks. However, St. Luke's can't say anything else about this situation because of Idaho's peer review law. We do know this isn't the first time someone has distanced themselves from Dr. Cole and his laboratory. On the doctor's own website, under his current positions, he lists things like being a board member of the Independent Doctors of Idaho, his role as CEO of Cole Diagnostics, and that he has been a consulting pathologist with Boise's VA Medical Center since 2003 to the present. Except he isn't presently connected to the VA hospital. According to the Veteran Affairs Public Affairs person, Dr. Cole isn't an employee, nor is he currently a consultant. Josh Callahan told us a couple weeks ago the VA stopped using Cole and his lab last spring, distancing themselves from his outspoken criticism of the COVID vaccine and his insistence on using and promoting unproven therapies for the virus, like ivermectin, and they really wish he would take it off his website. And now we've learned there's a third entity that has stepped away from Dr. Cole. Crush the Curve, the organization whose goal from the early days of the pandemic was to test and vaccinate our way out of the pandemic, to crush the curve, to keep the spreading virus from crippling our healthcare systems. Well, to do that, to date, they've done just under 250,000 COVID tests in Idaho. And while overall, they tell us, Crush the Curve used Cole Diagnostics to run a very low percentage of those tests, they stopped using Cole Diagnostics altogether back in October. They tell us it was a decision based on, well, costs, turnaround times, and coupled with the fact our mission to crush the curve was at odds with the information proactively campaigned to the public by leadership at Cole Diagnostics, all contributed to our decision to utilize other labs in our network. And those are just the three healthcare entities we can confirm. As usual, we have tried to ask Dr. Cole about this distancing, but he has yet to respond to us. He hasn't since August. Loss of business may not be the only concern for Dr. Cole, though. He is being investigated by the Washington Medical Commission, where he is licensed. And here in Idaho, there was a complaint filed against Cole with the State Board of Medicine by a group representing thousands of physicians, alleging he's practicing outside the standard of care.
Check, 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 check.
All right, it's December 8th. Still days away from the official start of winter, but it hasn't exactly been feeling like this time of year, with just a few days giving us just a dusting of snow so far. That may not matter much here in the Treasure Valley, but in the mountains, it's a much bigger deal. This time last year, many of Idaho's ski resorts were already open and had been since November. Right now, though, Bogus Basin has just 6 inches of snow at its base. Now, Sun Valley, on the other side, isn't terrible at 22 inches. Tamarack hopes to open this Saturday, but that's still to be determined. Meanwhile, Brundage Mountain has only 2 inches of snow at the bottom, and therefore, they haven't even been able to finalize an opening day. So where is all the snow? Here's Katya Stepovic.
We had a drier and warmer October and November than we usually do.
April Whitney, Communications and Marketing Director for Brundage Resort, says right now there is no opening date.
Brundage Mountain is known for the best snow in Idaho, and the idea behind that is most of that incredible snow comes from Old Man Winter or Mother Nature or whatever you want to call the natural weather phenomenon. So, we do rely on that. Now, natural snowfall this year has been the real challenge.
Brundage is banking on an incoming storm to speed up their start date.
I know last year you guys were able to open in November.
Yes.
What is different compared to last year and now this year?
Well, 2 factors really. Last year, we saw both colder temperatures, which allow us to make a little bit of snow at the base area.
But not this winter, and that's the case for Tamarack Resort too. They opened in November last year, and this year hope to open December 11th.
Snowmaking is a really big factor, and where we have not been able to really take advantage of that this season because of the warmer temperatures. We need to be in the mid to high 20s to really be effective on the snow, and the humidity has to be right.
Although more mountain snow is expected to come soon, according to meteorologist Jim Duthie, right now we're experiencing the second La Nina in a row. Last year we saw near normal amounts of snowpack, but typically when you have 2 La Ninas in a row, he says the second one is usually drier.
So what we're looking at right now is maybe a little bit lower snowpack than we would expect this time of year. I noticed the latest numbers today were running below normal.
According to the National Weather Service, December in 2020 was the 22nd driest month in the last 157 years, with only 1.7 inches of snow falling in the entire month of December in Boise. The average, 5.6 inches.
The popular phrase is global warming and climate change, suggesting that we are seeing warmer temperatures overall, and that has been the case in the last few years. And what happens quite often, too, we don't start seeing our snowpack until a little bit later, and then it melts off a little bit sooner in the spring as well.
While both Brundage and Tamarack staff don't feel like they are opening behind schedule, they would like to not have to rely on natural snow so much if recent weather trends continue.
It's not just us here in Idaho, it's everyone. I mean, it's industry wide.
We still love our natural snow, our powder storms, but adding a little bit of snowmaking in the future will allow us to be the masters of our own destiny.
Yeah, and to be the masters of their own destiny, Brundage plans to get more snowmakers in the near future. But even so, they need those cold enough temperatures to make that snow. Regardless of the obstacles, both Brundage and Tamarack say they're optimistic for a, quote, epic season. And they may be right, because Jim says an atmospheric river may be coming, bringing in 1 to 3 feet of snow in those mountain areas. So we'll see.
And that would be much needed. But as you mentioned, tough to build or make that snow when you don't get the cold temperatures to keep it. All right, thank you very much, Katya.
Can't have it all.
Well, that didn't take long. Yesterday, we asked you to share your weird, your ugly, your twisted but too sentimental to get rid of Christmas ornaments. And you did. Yeah, you certainly understood the assignment. So now we offer them up for your viewing delight or disgust. You decide. Here we go, heading into our second consecutive COVID Christmas. But it seems Dave got a jump on the rest of us. He says he made this ornament when he was 8. Now 52, his little snowball with spikes has a whole new meaning. Mark likes his I Survived the Great Toilet Paper Shortage of 2020 ornament. Is it appropriate that it has a crack in it? Speaking of crack, they say Santa travels by the light of a full moon. Well, he does in Doug's house in Meridian. Whether it's wooden or made of metal, like the Cassia County license plate from 1947 when Apparently ski jumping was the pastime. To Mike's Grill, sizzling 3 seasonal salmon. You know, kids say and make the darndest things. Amy's daughter Aubrey made this Christmas worm and brought it home from kindergarten while growing up in Jerome. Aubrey is a freshman in college now. It's 11 inches long, Amy tells us. Not that size matters. I don't even know what this is. Well, Chris from Meridian calls it the ugliest ornament in the world, but the grandkids love finding it on the tree. Ever wonder what Santa wears while stuffing your stockings? Well, fishnet stockings, of course. Christmas or Christopher Columbus. Charlie said her son Chad made this sailboat out of a walnut more than 30 years ago, and it's her favorite. That one isn't as old as this one. A strange ornament for sure, says Kay from Meridian. Made by Linda Houston in the 1950s, from an egg carton with a pipe cleaner hook. Not sure if Santa has whiskers, but those eyebrows though. One even older, Carl made this ornament in the 1st grade at Central Cove School east of Homedale. Says he made it in 1951, and it's been on the tree, or the grapevine, every year since. A Cyclops snowman who apparently has an affinity for accessories? Someone say dog collars? Sandy and McCall says this ornament was one of many made by my colleagues when Max the dog destroyed our tree. And I guess dog treats are a thing. One of our weirdest and most treasured, says Jeannie in Boise. Top that! Well, Boise's Karen Clifford can, with a dog in a dress, a Jack Russell Terrier tree topper. And if you have a dog, you know you're gonna have, yep, just not generally on the tree. And it's frosted for the season. Derek Cramper in Meridian says it was his mom's, Cindy, a former vet tech, for years. And now he says it's a special family heirloom. I'm guessing it'll drop to the next generation. But perhaps the most unique ornament so far this season comes to us from Jim in Meridian. A fork, he explains, that my brother stabbed me in the back of the hand with during a Christmas dinner when we were kids. I was reaching across the table for more food. Dad wasn't happy. Jim says his brother gifted the fork to him a few years later from Mom's dinner set, and every year, he still puts it on the tree. You know what? I can't think of a better forking story for an ornament. All right, well, hopefully this inspired you to take a picture of your weird or creepy or ugly ornament and send it to us. And yes, we know it's the holiday season, so maybe you have some Hanukkah decorations that are a bit creepy and odd and weird that you'd like to share with us as well. Do that. You can text us, email us, find us on social media. Just tell us about it. And more importantly, again, show them to us. Send us those pictures and a little bit of a story that goes along with it. We want to know about you and your ornaments. All right, before we get to your comments to wrap up today's show, we want to remind you, 7 Cares, Idaho Shares, happening right now and is going to run through Saturday. That's the big finish, when we're going to be posted at 8 different locations across the Treasure and Magic Valley this year. You can donate right now online, and whatever you contribute will go towards 3 different charities: the Boise Rescue Mission, the Salvation Armies of the Treasure and Magic Valley, and the Idaho Food Bank and everything that they're involved with. Now remember last year when we had an anonymous donor match what you managed to chip in to the tune of like $350,000? Well, that's happening again this year. Every dollar you donate will be matched this year thanks to another anonymous donor. So text 7 Cares, all one word, to the number that is on your screen. That's the same number you send in messages to the show, 208-321-5614. And you do that, you're going to get a link sent back to your phone. All you got to do is click on that, and it'll help you donate directly. And again, no amount is too small. $1 buys 4 meals for Idahoans in need, so any donation you know goes a long way. And now that dollar, well, with that anonymous donation, will become 2. So consider that as we continue through Idaho, or 7 Cares Idaho Shares going through this Saturday. All right, now let's get to your comments for today. The mayor was asked about her position for Interfaith Sanctuary moving to State Street when she sat down with Joe Paris this morning. She avoided the question entirely and wants to know why. Well, not necessarily entirely, but yeah, it wasn't a direct answer. I get what you're saying, and maybe because she doesn't have direct involvement in that decision. That is up to the city council, planning and zoning first, and then possibly up to city council. We'll see how that plays out. I don't think there's any question as to why Dr. Cole will no longer be affiliated with St. Luke's. Thank goodness St. Luke's is making the right decision. Good riddance, says Susan in Meridian. Counter that, though, with disgraceful what they did to Dr. Ryan Cole, essentially censuring him for reporting the results of valid medical studies because they don't agree with the currently dictated narrative. And I think that's the catch right there. The valid medical studies is probably, well, argued, or at least not agreed with in that statement by a lot of other people. So that's probably a decision that a lot of companies have made over the last couple of months when it comes to Dr. Ryan Cole. We'll see you tomorrow.